bus.
Ah, what are you talking about?
If you guys don't know, I fuck with New York. New York is cold. I'm gonna fly to New York soon. But yeah, New York overall. Anything.
New York is a war zone right now, with a 60% increase in overall crime and 30% increase in murders this year. In less than a 5-year period from when New York crime was at an all-time low in 2018 to 19, and all eyes are on the north of the city, the Bronx. So guys, before I get in .com/kidnerd, let's get into the video. Now the Bronx is known for a lot of different things. Hip hop was born there and is also home to the Yankee Stadium, but it's also the poorest borough of New York and has the highest crime rate. Unlike other parts of New York, the Bronx hasn't really been developed and gentrified too much, with old crime-ridden blocks kind of being neglected, while a lot of New York's other boroughs, like Manhattan and parts of Brooklyn, have been cleaned and built up. Now recently, all the attention in the rap game has been circulating in the Bronx. The drill scene has been popping off over them sides, with teenagers from the poorest and most dangerous blocks in the Bronx becoming stars almost overnight, with a new style of drill music using faster paced UK drill beats, with crazy dances and demonic lyrics. The top stars on the scene right now
3K Flock
have to be two artists called Dthang and K-Flock. And the weird thing is, these two are actually cousins. And to make it weirder, they're also up.
I seen a video though that says his mum, K Flock's mum, was saying shh, they ain't related to Dthang at all. So
with Dthang coming from the infamous housing project called the River Park Towers, which are a set of 4 big apartments on the south side of the Bronx, which are also the biggest buildings in the whole of the Bronx. Dthang's gang is called RPT, which is short for the River Park Towers complex, but RPT is part of an even bigger gang called the YGs, which is an alliance between RPT and a few more blocks in the Bronx. Dthang's cousin K-Flock is in a gang called Southside or DOA, and they beef the YGs and pretty much every other block in the south of the Bronx, including another gang called the OGs, who are from a housing complex called Cortlandt T Avenue, which is home to another 2 big rappers from the borough called B-Love and Shawty K. But the OGs from Cortlandt T used to actually be part of the YGs gang until they fell out and then started the OGs movement. Same way OGs used to actually be linked up with Southside until a recent dispute. An affiliate of the OGs and Southside called E.Baby went on Instagram Live smoking with Southside's ops. Instantly, Southside rapper K-Flock took the Insta Live, stating that he's not messing with E.Baby, and anyone that's with E.Baby can get caught in the crossfire.
So, word of my mother, when Ida see me, word of my mother.
But it seemed like the OGs are proving their loyalty towards E.Baby, with OG's rapper Shawty K taking to Instagram Live starting to diss K-Flock's dead friends from Southside, despite the two being friends just months previous. B-Love in a weird. But this also puts fellow OG's rapper B-Love in a weird position. B-Love actually used to live on the same block where K-Flock lives until he moved to Cortlandt T Avenue. And it seems that B-Love is still friends with his childhood friend K-Flock, despite both of their gangs now beefing. So as you could probably tell, the gang politics in the Bronx is quite confusing, and it could be a bit unclear on who has problems with who. But one thing that is clear is that both the OGs and Southside do not like the YGs. And this is something which is not new. It all kicked off on April 16th, 2012, after the OGs from Cortlandt T Avenue broke off from the YGs. YG members were out drinking when they got into an argument about who was putting in the most work for the gang. The argument got personal, and certain members wanted to prove themselves. So after drinking, they all went to the OGs territory to look for OG members. They eventually spotted a 16-year-old OGs member called Noah Bala and approached him. 20 YGs members then proceeded to grab Noah and started to brutally stomp him out right outside his apartment building, fracturing his bones and leaving him dead. This murder really kicked stuff off in the Bronx, but anywhere that a murder like Noah's happens, police are never far behind in New York. Now, New York's police force, the NYPD.
The NYPD, I'm pretty sure they are the most on it police force. Look how many recalls they slapped at. RPT, K-Flock's got a recall now. So many. I'm not gonna lie, NYPD's on job.
Are the kings of gang takedowns and indictments. They are very good at letting gangs believe they're getting away with their activities, but the whole time they're watching everything. And that's exactly what the feds were doing to the YG gang. After the murder of Noah, the police set up a 3-year investigation on the YGs, using CCTV and undercover officers to track any drugs they sold in the streets and any altercations they were getting into with rival gangs. In late 2015, the feds decided it was time to close in on the gang, and they arrested and charged 22 members of the YG's gang on racketeering charges and the violence they were bringing to the streets, which included 3 murders and 30 non-fatal shootings. This was a big blow to the YG's gang, but this wasn't the end of the gang completely. It was time for the younger members of the gangs to step up. Recently, with the rise of drill music in the area, guys have been on some wild stuff. The last few years has been a lot of bloodshed in the Bronx, and with more indictments throughout the years, taking down a lot of older figures in the Bronx. The streets were left with a bunch of kids running around, continuing the gang politics their older counterparts left them with. And it's like what the younger generation like to do nowadays. They were making sure the whole of social media was seeing what's happening on the streets. On April 7th, 2020, a YG's rapper called Wu Lottie and his friends were lurking on a gang linked to the OGs called the OYs, when a 28-year-old called Williams Hopton went and rented a zip car in Harlem and then proceeded to pick up 3 members of the OYs gang, who again are affiliated with the OGs. The OYs members started to drive around Harlem packed with brooms and knives looking for Wu Lottie until they reached West 154th Street and spotted the 17-year-old YG's member called Wu Lottie at 12:50 AM. The OYs members proceeded to jump out the rented zip car and started to chase Wu Lottie. Wu Lottie tried to make a run for it, but he tripped over and was ultimately stabbed and beaten to death. And while all of this was going on, a 16-year-old boy who was part of the attack was filming it all for Snapchat, screaming, "Stop running, Wu Lottie."
Stop running, Wu Lottie!
So as you could probably guess with the video footage and the zip car rented, it wasn't that hard for feds to find the culprits, and all 4 were quickly found and arrested. Wu Lottie's death was especially sad due to him dying just before the drill scene in the Bronx really started to kick off. Just 2 months before Lottie's death, Lottie dropped his first drill song called Fours
Voice Mod is the #1
talk, which was at a time when the Bronx drill scene wasn't really popping off. The YGs were actually some of the first in the Bronx to jump on UK drill beats in late 2019. Around 45 minutes away from the Bronx in Brooklyn, many rappers were starting to hit big numbers on drill beats, like Fivio Foreign and Pop Smoke to say a couple names. But the Bronx put a different type of swing to the drill genre, with different sets in this beef having different dance moves, like the RPT gang doing bunny hops. Younger YGs members from the River Park Towers complex wanted to get in on the trend of the drill music which was popping in Brooklyn, with some early songs like RPT Buggin'. But the YG's gang really started to gain some traction when a YG's rapper called Dthang dropped his first solo track called Caution, which at the time was one of the rudest drill songs to come out the Bronx. This came months after his cousin from the other side of this feud, K Flock, dropped his debut song called FTO, and both artists were starting to hit serious numbers, running up millions on each song, and all attention in New York was starting to shift towards the Bronx. This came during the
No, they're both locked up. What's his name? Dthang will be he's getting out at 2 years or something. Okay, Flock.
summer of 2020, and with the rise of drill songs in the area also came with the rise of violence, and 2020 proved to be a deadly year for the whole of the Bronx. After the death of Wu Lottie, the streets were starting to get hot. 2 months later, a 20-year-old from a completely different separate gang in the Bronx was sitting in the back of a cab around 2 blocks away from his block. A white BMW pulled up next to the cab and started firing into the back of the car. The man hit was a guy called Ty Benji, and he was from a block called the McKinley Houses, a block which has beef with the majority of the south of Bronx, so it's not even clear who committed the shooting, with the YGs and the OGs both mocking Ty Benji in their songs. Ty Benji was put in intensive care, and he was being treated in the medical center near where he was shot. But while Ty Benji was being treated for his wounds, 2 days later, an opposing gang to Ty Benji's set also suffered a loss. The OGs gang were having a barbecue on Davison Avenue when shots were fired into the crowd, when a stray bullet hit a 17 16-year-old who went by the name B Diddy in the neck, which killed him. B Diddy grew up around members of the OG's gang, but he was actually never involved in the street life. He was actually a very talented and highly sought over basketball player. He graduated high school just a few days before his murder, and just hours before his murder, he was in talks of one of the best basketball colleges in the whole of the country.
What a straight boy can do. This guy could have been next Steph Curry, but no. He's dead, so rest in peace.
But despite his non-involvement in the streets, this didn't stop rival gangs to the OGs taunting his death in songs, with YGs regularly mentioning him in drill tracks. 2 days later, stuff wasn't looking good for Ty Benji also. While still receiving treatment, his health was starting to take a turn for the worst. Sadly, he was pronounced dead 2 days later after he was shot. These two murders so close together sparked a complete war throughout the south of the Bronx in the whole of 2020, with bodies dropping throughout the whole of the year. And with the rise of violence, also came with the rise of the attention on the music. But despite K-Flock starting to build an opportunity for himself outside the streets, he was still making it clear he was still knees deep in the streets, with him constantly insta-living himself, spinning ops blocks, recording himself running down YG's members, which was seeming like a trend in the Bronx, to record themselves committing these crimes.
Go! Hey, buddy. How about this? How about this? It took. Oh! Matter of fact, take a left and go through this.
Yo, you guys know they're gonna use all of this information against him in court, so damn.
Ain't no somebody over here, bro. Bro, come outside, we in front of our building. Look! We in front of our building.
But soon in 2021, K-Flock's life would take a turn for the better. After the recent successes in his songs, it was clear he was a big star in the Bronx. It was rumoured that K-Flock had signed a multi-million record deal with Capitol Records, and it wasn't hard to see that K-Flock had just signed a big deal, with him flexing on his socials with a new bust-down Carti and chain, while driving new foreign cars throughout his hood. But in 2021, while K-Flock was moving up in the world, back at home in the Bronx, the war was starting to get worse. Less than a few weeks before K-Flock took the deal, another member of the YGs called Ty Swish was shot dead inside his apartment block. And only 4 days after this, a member of K-Flock's gang called J-Rip K was also shot dead. The most shocking thing about this murder was that J-Rip was only 13 years old. Reports from police say that the possible motive for J-Rip's killing was due to him possibly having a role in the murder of Ty Swish, with J-Rip allegedly being on the site of the murder when it happened. Two 16-year-old YG's members were wanted for the murder of J-Rip K, one being a rapper called Rajiz. But before the feds could get to Rajiz, the ops got there first. 9 hours after the murder of J-Rip, Rajiz got into the back of a cab on his way to a recording studio. When the cab got to East 178th Street, the car got stuck in traffic. This is when two boys pulled up next to the cab in a scooter and let off shots into Rajiz, killing him instantly inside the cab at 16 years old. Southside rapper K-Flock is seen constantly reminiscing on his younger friend J-Rip in his lyrics and on social media.
Look at that, how many bodies are dropping. Fucking hell.
K-Flock is even seen running to J-Rip's aid after hearing he was shot and collapsed at a local restaurant. But unfortunately, it was all too late. After his friend's murder, K-Flock started to elevate in his music, dropping hits after hits, which seemed like a dedication to make it out the Bronx streets. But even despite signing a multi-million-dollar deal, it seemed like his heart was still in the streets, still videoing himself touring his arts block and arguing with rival YG's members on Insta Live. And in December 16th, 2021, this got him into some serious deep trouble. Wearing the Moncler jacket and some Amiri jeans, a masked up man starts to post up on his ops block in Sugar Hill, territory of the Old Wise gang. The masked up man then proceeds to FaceTime his ops, letting him know that he's on his block. And while he's walking through the block, he's confronted by a man who spots him in a barbershop. An argument breaks out and the man is shot in his neck and back and later dies in hospital. K-Flock was actually identified to be the alleged masked up man and the shooter in this case. And on the 23rd of December, K-Flock actually hands himself into police authority after being wanted for the murder. I'm not gonna go too deep into his case because obviously it's still ongoing, but hopefully he is innocent. And on the other side, K-Flock's op cousin and YG's rapper Dthang was also in some big trouble as well. He's currently locked up for 21 different criminal charges stemming from gun possession and drug charges. And if he's found guilty for most of the charges, he's looking at a long time in jail. Now, K-Flock and Dthang are both sitting in the infamous Rikers Island jail complex, known for its poor conditions and violence. It's also a jail that most people who are awaiting a trial in New York go to. A lot of different gangs are situated inside the prison, which causes a lot of violence. K-Flock and Dthang even bumped into each other and got into a little situation while locked up. And after the situation, both dropped freestyles dissing each other through prison phone lines. K-Flock states that he jumped Dthang.
I walked in the spot up on hot. DT walked in the spot and got hot. I'm in jail now, such a big time to get posted in the lung, everything we gon' bounce.
But Dthang states that K-Flock is lying.
K-Flock, why you locked on the net? Cause son, I got hot me, you know that cat. And for one, we gon' get to the fact you saw me face to face and you wasn't on that. Like, stop the lying and shit. We crib hours and I start firing.
It's starting to look like the Bronx is becoming a trap impossible to get out of, with some of the most promising artists being taken down before they could get out, with the likes of YG's rapper Lee Drilly being charged for a murder, and up and coming Sevside rapper C-Hot being brutally shot down in a car, and one of the most hottest rappers, Dougie B from Sevside, being in and out of jail, and YouTuber even trying to take down his tracks. Hopefully more Bronx artists start to realize that this is a way out, and in the future we could possibly start to see the biggest artists in hip hop coming from the Bronx. It's been your boy.
Been your boy Kid Nerd. Meow. Yo, free K-Flock, free Dthang, and the dollar. Rest in peace, everybody in this video that have passed away. Yeah.